So, Houston, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure. My name is Houston Brittain, and I'm the Director of Risk Management for a company called Miller Truck Lines, family-owned company originally out of Stroud, Oklahoma, which corporate headquarters is still there. However, we have terminals in Houston and in Tulsa. So about 500 trucks on the road. We do flatbed, reefer, environmental, tanker, you name it, we do it all. Been with the company for just about 10 to 11 months. So great company to work for, family owned. Mom and dad still show up to work every day and they're in their 80s, every single day.
Perfect. Now, I don't know if you'll know some of these questions, but do you know how long you've been a client?
Since 2012.
2012. You know what Miller was doing before they started doing online training?
Yes, we were utilizing J.J. Keller's videos, and so therefore it took a lot of time during the orientation process watching all of their films. And the problem we had with that was a lot of the films became outdated, and so we were looking for something that was a little bit more dated and in terms of keeping up with the times.
Now, when thinking about online training, and I know you didn't quite weren't there for the decision, but do you know what all factors went into it besides just being outdated?
Well, I think you talk about a family-owned company, and in terms of they have the thinking of if it's not broken, don't fix it. And so they were looking in terms of technology. Where was technology at today? How could we improve our company? How could we move our company forward? And so we started looking at things. From what I understand, of course I wasn't there, but after speaking with everyone, they're looking to get up with the times and with the online training. And I had experience with online training as well. So.
Okay. Do you know challenges that were faced when they rolled out? Because I know that Miller didn't quite just jump on board. They had it, and you came and kind of helped push them a little bit.
Right. Miller was using, when I got there, and this was in 2013 or 14, Miller was using it as a tool to use for like violations. So it was a more remediation tool. A driver got a violation, they would bring them in, they'd have them watch. So if it was over securement or something of that nature, they'd have them come in and watch a video over securement. They really didn't understand the full, what they actually had. And then when I came in and started, I had worked for a company previously that had Infinit-I and Alliance. And so when I came in, I checked into the system to see what they had, see what was available to us, and implemented it fully then, and helped them understand that they weren't utilizing the whole package that they had.
Now, with your drivers, are they company drivers? Are they owner-operators?
We have half of our drivers are company, and half of our drivers are owner-operators.
Is the training mandatory for them to do?
Yes. Yeah. Now, keeping in mind, when you bring on something like this, it's a culture shock, obviously. So you've got a lot of drivers out there who are not up to date on technology, and so we knew it was going to be a culture shock. So when I implemented the program fully, we started out with just our orientation. We wanted every single new driver coming in to go through about 8 to 10 hours of videos. And some of the videos are only 5 to 15 minutes long, so you can imagine 8 to 10 hours. So we lined up a pretty good section of videos for them, what we thought was pertinent to their position. So if we had a flatbed driver, we have a modular setup for them. If it was a van driver, we have a modular setup for them, for reefer, for tanker, and all of that. The whole package, and everybody wasn't accustomed to it yet. I'm sorry, I keep talking to him like Ricky Bobby. Because we weren't accustomed to using it yet, we decided it was going to be such a culture shock to everyone that we would roll it out in stages. So the orientation piece was the first piece. Every brand new driver coming in has to go through that amount of training. And then, of course, the piece where a driver gets a violation or for speeding or whatever the case may be, we bring them in, we do a write-up process, much like you were talking about today. We follow that to a T. There is a corrective action for every violation that they get. And now we're starting to roll it out slowly but surely. So we have some drivers, for instance, your example today where you got a driver in New Mexico, we don't want to bring them all back to Tulsa. So if they have access via their phone or via iPad, when they're in their sleeper on duty, then we can have them watch that video and we don't have to bring them back. So we're rolling it out in very, very small steps. The ultimate goal is to get everybody to have that monthly training assigned But the other cool thing about it is we have the package that has the OSHA piece. And we sometimes find that in the DOT world, we're so focused on the Department of Transportation and their regulations that we forget about the OSHA piece for our shops and our office management people, or our office people. So we've now put that into place where all of our office people are taking the sexual harassment training, they're taking the warehouse OSHA training, all of the required training for OSHA, so that we have that now on record for an OSHA investigation should we ever have one or an audit. We've been using it for about 11 months, and if you year to date, apples to apples, we've saved about 50% in our crash rating. So we're down about 50% in apples to apples calendar year versus last year, and the number of accidents that we've had and the severity of those accidents.
So are you, do you count in your crashes, your DOT crashes, or do you count anytime you bump something you're not supposed to?
Everything.
Okay.
We count everything.
All right.
And then the violations, our CSA scores continue to improve every single month. So for every securement violation we get, or even now the speeding, we have the speed management monitor that we have them watch, and that's all slowed down. So each month our CSA scores have improved, and I attribute that to this system. And I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm very detailed about, looking for trends, looking for red flags, looking for things that make a difference. And I'm a true believer in training, no matter if it's online or wherever, in training, and we feel that this has helped us tremendously. Yep.
Good question. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
What kind of midstream corrections? You say you've been at that 11 months. What are some things that you learned along the way that you would have done a little different?
I guess the things that I've learned along the way is that in training, and I worked for another company prior to this where we didn't have the online training. So any corrective action training was basically sitting behind my desk and me preaching to them. Or maybe taking them out to the field and showing them exactly what they're doing and give them some sort of in the field training, which is excellent, and I think that needs to be a part of this. So the filming part of it, where we can film ourselves doing this, whether it be me out there doing an inspection the Miller way, the way we wanted to do the Miller way, or having one of our employees do that, one of our drivers do that, is critical. But what I've learned is that there's a consistency in this training. And so they know that if they have a violation that they're going to have to watch this film. And chances are they may have watched that film once or twice. And if they've watched that film once or twice, then that's when we sit down and we have the conversation with me. We just add to that. So what I've learned is they expect it. They know that if they get into trouble, they're going to come in and watch the film. We actually counsel them and coach them, just not to the extent where they're sitting behind my desk. But what I've learned is that they enjoy it, and they don't have a problem with it. And those who do have issues, we train them and show them how to do it, and they pick it up pretty fast.
You said this afternoon that you guys had drive cam.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have these in all your trucks, 100% of your trucks, or where are you on that, and how do you incorporate that with vertical lines?
We have about 25% of our vehicles have that on the side, or in the dash cam. We've actually used that in court twice. We're actually looking at going with the side cams now, the ones that are on the mirrors that can see the side views, and then actually even possibly seeing the back view. As technology improves, we're looking at doing that. We haven't really incorporated that much with this system, because this system is more, there's not a lot of things in there it talks about as far as the actual dash cams and things like that. But I can see as technology improves, we could, utilize that down the road and incorporate those two together.
I can see where if you've got a drive cam video of one of your drivers,
Mm-hmm.
8 to 10 seconds in there, where you could put that right back onto
Exactly.
the screen and say, hey,
Exactly.
this afternoon at such and such.
Right. Now, much to the presentation was given earlier today, you could actually take that and put it on there and then show that as an example. So one of the things we do is we have uploads of pictures. So if we have a vehicle that has a securement issue, like for instance, we had a load that turned over in our yard here recently. And it was just a silly mistake. We took pictures of that and we uploaded it onto the system. So that's one of the things that they actually have the ability to see when we're giving a presentation over accidents and things to look for in terms of securing it, we can throw those pictures up there for them.
So as far as managing the program, how do you currently manage it? Do you manage it all yourself? Do you have any help?
No, I have some help. I have my trainer. So we have new drivers come in. She sets them all up on the system, gets them, goes through the whole week. We have a week orientation for every new driver comes in. So she has administrative rights. She sets it up. She provides all the training. Together we sat down and decided which modulars we wanted to provide for them. In the future, I'm going to have her as well as our recruiter, assign training to the drivers depending on what topics we want to choose for that particular month. One of the things we're very cautious is in changing this culture that we're trying to change is we don't want to overwhelm them. So we don't want to have the system automatically generate new training every month, because what we find with the company I worked prior to that, what we found was we had all this training that was due and they couldn't get to it. So we're going to take baby steps in getting them there.
Good idea. Good idea. Now, with your orientation, can you speak a little bit more about that? Are you doing custom content with that, or are you strictly using the VAG library?
Right now we're using the VAG library. We do have a few custom things in there. As we move forward, when you get people, drivers more acquainted with them, then we're going to go into the, going out and filming the inspections or doing a pre-trip or post-trip, and we'll add that content to it. We're actually redoing our driver's manual right now and reviewing it, going through and tightening it up, and then we'll put that on the system as well for them to have the availability to pull it up. So as we move forward and we get the drivers more accustomed to either looking at it on their phones or their iPads, which we're actually getting ready to move from Qualcomm. We have Qualcomm system now. We're going to move from Qualcomm to another company that provides a tablet. They'll be able to go onto that tablet with that access, so they can not only do their daily logs on this tablet. Now they have the ability to go in and also do their training as well. So we will actually provide the tablet for them.
Now, do you have them watch any of the orientation before they show up, or do you have them watch it after?
Good question. Yes, we found that to speed up our process for orientation, where we can spend more detailed time with them in other areas that are not associated with the system, we'll have them watch the films before they get there. So we give them we set them up, we give them their access codes, and then they'll go through the systems, we monitor it, make sure they're doing it, and then when they get there, we go back in to make sure they've completed it. So a lot of times they've already completed a lot of the training before they even step foot inside the door, which in terms of orientation has saved us tremendous time of someone standing up in front of them all week long and talking to them and watching videos on J.J. Keller. Nothing against J.J. Keller, but.
Are you using the training for, let's say, like leading indicators, like hard braking or any of those things? So you mentioned having the Qualcomm and having the video cams or the drive cams. Are you able to capture hard braking, hard turns, sudden stops, excessive speed, or any of those things through those systems, and then use your VAG tools? Interesting
you should say that. The reason why we're leaving Qualcomm is that information doesn't really exist with them. They're a huge company that started basically the e-log process, and there's a lot of companies with them. We have a huge investment with them, but we're looking to move to a company that's more technologically advanced and open-ended, so they can write programs to tailor to our needs. And so with that, the newer system that we're looking at, we will have the ability to look at the hard braking and all those things. And yes, when we do have that ability, we will incorporate that into our Infinit-I training.
Does everybody come to Tulsa, or do you do some remote training and orientation through your Houston office?
Right now, everybody comes to Tulsa. We find that we want them to get the Miller experience by coming through our doors there, going through that whole week, spending that time with us and getting to know us, especially the safety department, the risk management department, the driver's managers, which are across the street from us, that they'll be their driver's managers. They'll pick up their truck there. So everything right now is in Tulsa. Now in the future, that may change because we have a terminal in Houston that's expanding pretty fast. We may have to change that, but for right now, we want them to get that Miller feel by coming to Tulsa.
That's a good point. If you choose to do that and start doing hiring out of Houston, any thoughts or ideas of how you might set that up to make that the most effective, knowing what you know about the system now?
Well, it just depends on the management there. We have brand new management and they'll need to be trained, but I'll spend a lot of time down there until I feel comfortable enough that they can bring that on and have the equipment there to be able to show them the films and do the training there. But that's not going to happen for a while. And the other cool thing about this is when I incorporated the system fully, we set up a computer lab. So we've got 10 computers set up in a room now. When the drivers come in, we have headphones. It's all privacy. They go walk in and they sit down and do all of their training without any interruption. So that's something we did not have before. But we feel it was critical for them to have a place to be able to go in and do their training without any distractions. We would do the same thing in Houston if we needed to, if we decide to go that route.
Chris, that would be all orientation.
Hmm?
You said it's a week long, is it Monday through Friday?
Yes.
And then with the Infinit-I, how much time cut off of that, or have you improved a lot?
Oh, it's improved a lot because a lot of times they'll have at least half or some of the guys who are more technologically advanced and understands the system will run through it and they'll have that training completely done before they even walk in the door. So typically we have them drug tested on a Friday. So that's going through the system. They come in on Monday, we give them their access and passwords. They do it over the weekend, come in on Monday or Tuesday, and a lot of them are all completed. Those are not, we direct them right to the computer labs until we get it done. We make sure that's all done first before we even go into the other areas. We have presentations that are given by payroll and things of that nature. And then we have our assistant safety director that manages the accident policies and the CSA stuff. Now the cool thing is this system has CSA, a wealth of knowledge on CSA, so they watch all of those films. We want them to have a full understanding of what that is because that's critical to our business.
Any other questions? Now, with your drivers, are you paying them to train?
Yes, they have an orientation pay.
They do?
Yes.
As far as your ongoing training, are you paying them any kind of bonuses or?
Not yet, not yet. With a family-owned company, the mentality is we pay you to do a job, and so training is part of that. But as we move into the more to the new generation, enticing them along the way will be a part of it. We do have safety bonuses and things of that such, but as we continue to evolve the program, then we'll look at things like that.
Now, with your owner-operators, are you making it mandatory for them?
Yes, absolutely. If they have the Miller name and the Miller DOT number on the side, they fall under the same rules as the company.
Is there any other areas besides just the trucking component or orientation component that you're starting to focus on?
Yes, and that's the OSHA side. Definitely the OSHA side is critical. For instance, our shops have never had any of the required training for OSHA. So if OSHA was to come in today or prior to us putting this in, we would have been in trouble. And so we required all of our shop hands to come in and sit at that same computer lab to go through that same training for a modular setup for all of our required OSHA training like bloodborne pathogen and things of that nature. Lockout, tag out, things like that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you really don't use custom content.
Not yet. We're going to move more into that, and after hearing the presentation today and seeing a lot of the things that I didn't know about the system, and that was only 2 hours, can't wait for tomorrow. Yes, we're going to utilize that a lot more.
One of the things that we tout personally is our client services side. Have you had a chance to really work with them?
Yes.
What's your experience with them?
I have a great customer service representative, Tanya Hester, and she's in Texarkana. Awesome. And she does a lot of the legwork for you. So if you decide to sign up and take this program, you just, if it's her or whoever's your customer service representative, if they do that for you. And so, for instance, this week we have a sister company that has 10 drivers. And I sent all the management staff and everyone over to her and asked her to put them into the system under a Premier tab, Premier Logistics. And now we're going to start providing that training for them as well. She did everything. Sent it to her, she put it in, sent me an example of how it all looked. And she does a lot of the message board. So we talked about the message board. When you open it up, she does all of that for me. So willing to help in any way whatsoever. She knows that sometimes it can be time consuming, that we have a job to do and we can't focus on that. That's why they provide the service for us.
Excellent. Any questions before we let Houston off the hot seat?
Do you share your training logs with your insurance providers, and do you tout the fact that you use this service to your insurance provider?
Well, that would be great. We're self-insured. We have very high retentions, and what coverage we do have is just excess coverage. So, but for a company that it's not at that point yet, yes, I think that would be great information to show. We do get a report monthly that shows all the training that we've done. You know, the owner did, which is, you know, as I said, still in the 80s and writes all the checks. He wants to know we're getting the best value of what we're doing, so we have reports that's sent to me every single month of all the training that we've provided, and I ship them right to him just so he knows that we're getting a return on investment. And but yes, for an insurance company that would ever ask those questions, that would be a great tool. And more importantly to us is if an auditor comes in the door. We're due for an audit. It's been since 2012. The auditor comes in and says, I want to see the training records on all these drivers. All I got to do is go to the system and pull it up. And then he says, well, I want to see their test. There's your test. Well, I want to see what questions they missed. There it is. So I knock on wood that we don't get an audit really soon, but if we do, I'm excited about if they ask those questions, we can provide that information for them. Same thing in OSHA, for an OSHA audit. Yes, sir.
Are you using the 100% pass, or are you using the tab that they go to 100% on their exams?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because we want them to know, and then coming into orientation, we want them to take as much time as they want to get it. And what we find is there's a few guys that'll miss a few questions. They'll go back, but they'll catch it pretty quick. And then we save those into the resource file so they can always resource back to it.
Any other questions?
I just have one. Have you noticed any retention increase since you started this, or decrease, or what's that? Has it had any effect at all on your retention drivers?
You know, we're very fortunate. I'll be quite frank with you. We're very fortunate with this company that you know, our retention policy, our retention has been very good, around 50%, which is very good for a trucking company. Miller's a good company. They provide a good service and are very good to our drivers. So in terms of the training piece of it, I think we will see more of an improvement as we continue to go forward, because we're providing that training that some companies don't, and they see it as a value. The driver comes in and sees it as a value to them. So I think we'll see even better retention out of that in the future. I think it's too early to say. It's been a little bit of turnover here lately because we're in 30% of our business is the oil field. So as the oil field slows down, you know, drivers start looking the other way. And I think this will help us in the future.
In regards to the reporting functions, what are you using for reporting? Are you looking at them like monthly? You share it with your upper management?
Yes, sir. So I get that report every month. It shows all the training that we've done and shows all the new drivers and any extracurricular training, if you want to call it that, right now that we're providing. So I send that straight up to upper management so they have an idea of what we're doing. And again, as I said, the owner wants to see that to make sure that we're actually utilizing the system for the amount of money that we're paying, that we're utilizing, that we're getting the benefit out of it. And so I have a manager scorecard that I fill out, that I complete every month, that shows where we're at in our comp, where we're at in our insurance, where we're at in our accidents, where we're at in our CSA scores, and then where we're at in our training.
All right. So, so you said you were at a company previous to this one that didn't use or did use?
I worked for a company for a very short time in Tulsa that did have the system, but they fell under that example that I gave earlier about they threw all this training out there at them, set it up in the system where it would automatically throw out the training each month. And what they found is that the drivers wouldn't, either one, refused to do it, they wasn't pushing it the way they needed to be, and number three was they wasn't able to complete it all. So you've got these reports of overdue assignments, overdue assignments. And that's when I decided, moving with this company, that we would take baby steps, because it's a culture shock to a lot of old school drivers out there.
So as a safety director, have you had to present this to Infinit-I upper level management to actually sell the program to implement to a company that you worked for?
No, both of the companies that came already had the systems in place. But I'm a huge advocate for this. And if I went to another company and they didn't have this, I would certainly, I'm not just saying this because they gave me a free meal. I'm saying this because I am truly passionate about training, and I've been in safety and management for a long time, and that's how you're successful is through training.
How long have you been in safety?
About 30 years total. So safety and operations management.
Have you had drivers that did not complete the training? And what did you do as a corrective action?
In the orientation process, we've had drivers that refused to do it, and they
didn't?
left on the same day.
Okay.
I mean,
Drivers that are currently working, have you had any drivers say, I don't want to do it this
No.
way?
No, because once you sit down and you explain it to them and they see how easy it is, they're very receptive after that. And most drivers know that this is the new school of thought. The old school drivers are the ones that saying, I don't want to do it, and those are the ones that are not here anymore. And you think about e-logs. When e-logs came out, we lost it. When I worked for Triad Transport in McAllister, which is a company I worked for 5 years, we lost a lot of drivers because no one wanted to deal with the e-log or the CSA 2010. And so they all left. And you still have some of those drivers left out there. In fact, we have a lot of those drivers left out there, but a lot of them who've gotten on board have gotten technologically savvy and are realizing that it's the best thing since sliced bread. And so it's just a matter of being patient and training them. But the ones that absolutely refuse to not do it, we'll give them every opportunity to. But if not, then they're just not a good fit for the company. Yeah.
Now, do you have any drivers doing it on their smartphones or tablets already?
We have just started that. Just started it, and just the drivers that we can't get in because of a violation, because we're business is starting to pick back up when we've lost a few drivers because of the slow business, and so we've decided that let's just start implementing this in one step at a time and give it a shot. And so what we've done so far has worked out well.
Okay. All right, last chance for questions for Houston. I'll let them off. Going once, going twice.
I'd just like to make a comment before. The system is really a good system. It really provides you what you need to do. It saves you time in your orientation. It's a tool that provides records for all the training for every driver. If you have a driver that goes inactive or leaves the company, you just go in and mark him inactive, and all of his records is still there. Because what we find is we have drivers that'll go away thinking the grass is greener on the other side, and 6 months later they're back. So we just reactivate them, and it still has all the training in there for them. And the fact that the company stays on top of the training, so we're always getting new stuff. And the fact that we can customize and tailor it to Miller Trucking is critical to us. We can go out and film our own films, put it on there and show it. We can change our manual or our hand policies, and we can update them, and they're on the system. So to us, it's certainly worth the return on investment for what we're paying. If we're going to live in this technological new world of trucking, then this is certainly a system that we want to partner with and move forward with.
Thank you, Houston.
Mm-hmm.